Welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thanks, Trey. It's so good to be here. The new studio looks incredible.
Thank you so much. Vanishing Seattle Day. How does that feel? How does that sit with you?
Well, I'm just honored. Yeah, I guess I just found that out just now. So thank you. I'm just, juiced to be back, here with you and Omari, and excited to chop it up with you.
Well, you've been doing some phenomenal work, and every time I see you, I literally fangirl out about the work you're doing with Vanishing Seattle. I actually can believe that it became a huge platform for people to follow, because Seattle really has been a marker for how a major city has been suffering gentrification. Before we dive into some of the things that you're going to be talking about today, I know you've shared this a bit, but I mean, what really made you say, I've got to do this?
Yeah, so I started Vanishing Seattle just a little over 6 years ago, just reached our 6th anniversary. So it started in January 2016. And I guess I've just been noticing, it's not like these issues of gentrification, displacement are anything new, like our city was founded on displacement. But it seemed like in terms of small businesses and community gathering spaces being priced out and going away, that was happening at a quicker and quicker rate. So the place and like the person that kind of catalyzed my very first post was a Filipino restaurant in North Beacon Hill called Inay's. And a friend of mine, Natasha Manila, is a drag performer. She was also a server at Inay's. And, the area was just gentrifying, and they got priced out. And so I went for the very last night it was open, which also happened to be the night that Natasha does her 3-hour-long one-woman epic drag show. And it was just such a incredible space to be in. You had this cross-section of the Beacon Hill community, the Asian American and Filipinx community, the queer community. And it was just a really powerful, defiant performance, and everyone just being there to celebrate this space and to celebrate Uncle Ernie, who had been a steward of that space. So I took some video and shared it, and that was my very first post to kind of show folks this unique cultural gathering place that we have in Seattle that seemed very uniquely Seattle, and this is the type of thing that we lose when these places go away.
Yeah, these cultural hubs are so important, and I gotta say, I never asked you this, but the name Vanishing Seattle is pretty freaking genius. I mean, obviously you're capturing Seattle vanishing, but I just got to ask, where did it come? Were you like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to call this.
Yeah, it was kind of spur of the moment. And I do want to give a shout out to Clark Humphrey, who I found out later. He actually wrote a book called Vanishing Seattle. I think it was published in 2005 or 2006, and it kind of goes up to mid-century. And then I think there's other kind of vanishing type efforts in New York and San Francisco. I've had people message me and ask if they can start one in Boise and in other places. So I don't think it's something that is unique to this city per se. You see it repeated over and over again, especially in different urban areas. So yeah, it was just kind of like a spur of the moment thing, and it doesn't capture everything that I'm trying to, document and convey. But that's kind of, I think, what we're just experiencing all around us on the day-to-day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about some places that have vanished, some that are not vanishing, and new emerging businesses. But I think that there's such a culmination of a multitude of things happening at once. And so I love that Vanishing Seattle is not only capturing the things that are vanishing, but you're like, look, we got to celebrate the ones that are able to stay in through and throughout all of this redevelopment happening around them. So let's talk about this first one, because it was a heartbreaker for me. Petit Rosso. Oh my goodness. Petit Rosso had to close its doors. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Cafe Petit Rosso, longstanding Capitol Hill institution, been around for 27 years, just closed on February 6th. And they've been through a lot. Your own Jake Grabot made this awesome video about it. The Soto sisters, Miki and Yuki, super, beloved folks in the community. They were also in the Vanishing Seattle film about Capitol Hill. And I mean, for the past 3 to 5 years, they've endured constant construction and development and, things just impacting the viability of their business with not a lot of support from the city. But they managed to stay open through the pandemic. We're really supportive to folks at the CHOP. And what really was also a hub for artists and musicians and queer folks. And, kind of it's been described as one of these like last bastions of like old Capitol Hill, kind of has that community feeling. But I guess the building that they've, been in since the 90s is getting renovated. And so they were going to be facing, issues with that, and then a rent increase right after that. So it just wasn't viable from a business standpoint. But I do want to say that they have Bang Bang Kitchen, so they've got, and Bang Bang Restaurant. So that's been closed during the pandemic. But, they've got a couple other things going on that folks should definitely support, because the Soto sisters are still behind that. And they're keeping open the possibility of one day reopening. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, just listening to their story, Omari and I were able to go in there before they closed, and to hear the longevity of what they've dealt with, through the waves of redevelopment all around them. And it's really interesting because I realized that there's unique nuances that sometimes aren't really shared when you're talking about a building owner who has roots in the area where they own property. There's a different perspective versus people who see these as opportunities to make money, or, they're just, moving with the wave, right? It's kind of like outside owners sometimes have a different perspective. And so I really loved being able to kind of dive in, go in there, listen to their story. And again, they took over Petty Rosso. It wasn't their original idea, but the fact that they were able to keep certain things on the menu, add certain things. And so my question was, well, what's gonna stay? Like, what is Bang Bang Kitchen? She's like, no, it's a completely different kind of cuisine. But you're right. The ideas of trying to keep something, in the back of their mind, saying maybe one day, right? Because I think that spaces, we're seeing a lot of buildings come up and they're still having vacant commercial spaces because they're just so unaffordable. So I'm wondering when that's going to bust enough to allow some of these things to come back. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about is the Crocodile. I know they just did a relaunch, a reopening. Tell us some more about it.
Yeah, so the Crocodile opened in 91, I believe. So it's been around for over 30 years. It was originally on 2nd and Blanchard. And in, I think, late 2020, they were basically displaced. I think they had tried to actually buy the building, which is part of Belltown's historic Film Row, but we're having issues with the landlord, and the landlord ultimately wouldn't even renew their lease. So luckily, they're able to find another space that's still in the Belltown neighborhood down on First and Wall. And it's where the old El Gaucho is, and the Pampas Room. And it's got this interesting kind of historical like full circle thing going on, where it used to be the Sailors Union of the Pacific Hall. And in the 90s, they had all ages shows there. So like Bikini Kill, Elliott Smith, Radiohead played there. So yeah, they have a bigger venue now. They've got Madame Lou's, they've got a comedy club. And so they just had their reopen to the public in December 1st. And I was able to go to the preview party and went to a show there, and it's like a beautiful space. So it's nice to, see something unvanish and continue on, and to, keep that, musical history in the neighborhood.
I agree. And you ask anybody who's been a Seattleite for a long time, people know about the Crocodile, and whether they've gone to I've gone to shows there at their previous venue. So I'm excited to kind of see what the new space looks like. You really set it up nicely. So now I'm even more intrigued.
And they still have a pole. Like if you ever gotten, your view blocked by that like column, and like the old pre-renovation Crocodile, like the new one kind of has one in Madame Lou's. So I found it oddly comforting. That's like, I kind of got to peer around this column here.
There we go. Let's bring back some of the things that were
little quirky things. Yeah,
absolutely. And the next one here is the Garden House. We get to celebrate that. It's also not vanishing, right?
Yes. So the Garden House is the oldest house on Beacon Hill. I believe it was built in 1886, something like that. It also has the oldest pear orchard in the state. So it's always been kind of a home and an office for various women's groups, um, cultural groups. I think Beacon Arts had an office there. They do a lot of gatherings and concerts in the garden. And in, I think, 2018, it was intended originally to be in community use for a perpetuity. And then that went to court and they were able to sell it to just like a private party in 2018. And then it went through a landmarking process and it did get landmarked. But just because something is landmarked doesn't mean that it can't be torn down. We're seeing that happen more and more, like with the Wayne Apartments in Belltown is one example of something that was landmarked and is going to get demolished. I mean, the thing that really protects it the most is just having ownership that wants to keep it for community use. And in the case of Garden House, that happened. So there's a lot of advocacy in the part of the Beacon Hill community, Beacon Arts, Historic Seattle. And so as of December, Historic Seattle was able to acquire the house. I think Seattle Parks Department is also involved. And so they're going to put it back into like community and arts use for perpetuity.
There we go. Now that's the example there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you have an owner who has a heart for the community, I mean, even if they're not from Seattle, but they're like, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that. I really want to make sure that this is something that the community can always have and can utilize as that cultural hub it's always been. I love hearing stories like that. And of course, we get to end on a really great note because Boosh is opening up over there on Jackson. We got an owner from our alma mater, James A. Garfield High. Tell us more about Boosh.
Yeah, so Boosh is a plant shop and nursery that opened on Juneteenth of last year at 23rd and Jackson. So the site of the old Red Apple Promenade. It's like right on the corner there and kind of like the small micro business spaces. But yeah, I just went last week and I don't really know anything about plants, but it was so beautiful and just, floor to ceiling packed with all different sorts of plants. And it's Black and Latinx owned. It's a family run affair. Sean's nephew was working there and helped me pick some stuff out and get some pots and was like, so patient with me. And yeah, it's just a lovely, lovely space. So it's nice to see these newer and emerging businesses, that are owned by Black and brown folks. And Sean's from the CD as well. So yeah, it's good to like celebrate these bright spots and these not vanishing new places as well.
Well, you're giving me all kind of places to go check out. Now I got to go make sure I get somewhere to the Crocodile. Let me know when a good show's coming. And then clearly I got to go to Boosh. I mean, I don't have a green thumb, so I, like you, don't know much about plants, but I can tell you this. One of my best friends got me an orchid plant, beautiful flowers for my birthday. And I really actually found that I'm enjoying to water it, to like nurture it in my home. And so I'm really looking forward to adding to my own kind of like plant, my plant lifestyle in the house. So I'll have to go check out Boosh. Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on. And again, thank you for the work you're doing. It's so vital and necessary for us to be able to, be educated on spaces that are closing, find ways for us to be engaged as community, which Vanishing Seattle also does, because sometimes it's a community effort that'll keep a place open. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing and for allowing us also celebrate the places that are not vanishing and the new ones that are blooming. So appreciate you and all the work you're doing. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trey, for being so generous as always, and always like supporting and uplifting me. So I'm just again so stoked to be a part of this and you be in your new studio, and just thanks for all the work you're doing too. Really appreciate you.
Absolutely, the love abounds over here in the studio. You guys, clearly Cindy Bro is doing her thing over there at Vanishing Seattle. Look, that's my. I've always called you Cindy Bro. Be inspired, you guys. Find out more about Vanishing Seattle. Before I let you go, how can they find you?
So just at Vanishing Seattle on Instagram and Facebook, Vanishing 206 on Twitter. People send me pictures and tips and stories all the time. That's kind of really helps me keep track of stuff. So please feel free to, reach out and message me. I really like to hear from folks.
Awesome. Awesome.